Good morning. I'm Norma with the good news for Friday, June the 14th. Well, walking with Jesus through Lent is emotionally difficult. And I don't know about you, but I'm not done reveling in the hope of the resurrection. I'm enjoying the vibrant greens and the myriads of colors that promise new life. And yet in today's gospel, we find Jesus back on the road to Jerusalem, preparing his disciples for his impending death. Listen as I read from Matthew chapter 16, and I'll begin at verse 21. And from that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering at the hands of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "God forbid it, Lord, this must never happen to you." But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." Then Jesus told his disciples, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life?" And this is the gospel of Christ. Well, in the previous verses, Jesus asked the disciples what people were saying about him. I don't think Jesus was merely being curious, but as he begins experiencing more opposition and hostility, I think he's experiencing some uncertainty about the effectiveness of his ministry. And they answer, "Some say you are John the Baptist, or one of the prophets." And then he looks right at them and asks, "And who do you say that I am?" And Peter's the first to chime in, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And pleased with his answer, Jesus says, "Blessed are you, Peter," and he grants him the keys to the kingdom. Jesus stood up to Satan's attacks in the wilderness, but now he faces a new tactic. Satan disguised his voice in Peter's, one of his trusted companions. And when Jesus talks about suffering and death, Peter scolds him, "Don't talk like that. This can't happen to you." Oh, poor Peter, just moments before praised for his wise insights. And now Jesus turns to him and says, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me." Well, the reality of Peter's words cut deep as Jesus wrestles with the suffering that lies ahead and with being obedient to the will of the Father. It is harder to ignore. See, Peter has put voice to Jesus' own fears and uncertainty. I used to understand the phrase, "take up your cross," to mean that as a follower of Jesus, I will suffer persecution. But I think it is simply a call to follow Jesus' example. In the garden he prayed, "God, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done." And in the end, Jesus was able to put behind all his doubt and fears. He trusted the Father and was obedient to his will. As followers of Jesus, we too are called to discern God's will and be obedient, to be wary of Satan's attacks, often disguised in our own inner voice. This thought from James Finley put things into a new perspective for me. He says, at the very heart of the prayer, "Jesus, have mercy on me," is the heart of Jesus, because God is love, and when love touches suffering, suffering turns into mercy. Mercy is everywhere. It is the light by which we see and know God. Our liturgy is filled with the plea for God to show mercy. We are asking him to show us compassion, to take away the pain. But it is through the lens of our struggles that we see the depth of God's love and mercy. Jesus' prayer in the garden was asking his Father for mercy. And if we believe that God does not answer our prayers to show us mercy, then I think we miss the point of the Passion story. See, Jesus got up from his knees, wiped the tears, and with courage and renewed conviction was obedient to God's will. He was able to bear the cross, certain of his Father's loving presence. And that is what we are called to. Without having our path clearly laid out for us, in faith, trusting in God's love, we take one more step, confident that when we stumble, he is by our side to encourage us to get up and wipe our tears. Through our suffering, we become channels through which God pours out his mercy onto others. Now you may be asking, Norma, where is the good news in this? You don't understand the dark path I'm on. And you're right. I only know my own. And even then, it's often filled with uncertainty and fear. But God knows and is infinite in mercy. You are God's beloved child. And like Jesus, we too can experience this intimacy with the Father, who hears our cries and responds with love. Because God is merciful to us, we can show mercy to others. May you find peace and hope in this truth. Amen. Well, this is the last for me until the fall. I hope you all have a really wonderful summer and enjoy this beautiful weather and all that God has to offer you. So look forward to seeing you again in the fall. Bye for now.